Hey everybody, and welcome to The Breakthrough Effect. I'm your host, Jared Sebesta. I've had two successful careers. First, I was an award-winning TV meteorologist and then a financial marketing strategist. I was living the dream, making good money, but inside I was craving for something more, something bigger. So I stopped deferring life and I started creating exactly the life I was searching for. I doubled down on unlearning old mindsets and creating big breakthroughs for me and my family. And now I'm bringing that same transformation to you. Let's understand the rules of this game. Let's get clarity. Let's stop chasing and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect.
And then 80 years go by and not a single car manufacturer, a new kid on the block, has once been able to achieve mass scale production. Not one. And then Elon did it, but it took him sleeping on the factory floor. He did nothing else but check on the manufacturing line and how are the linen machines sewing on the covers to the seats. And it's like, this dude is worth billions of dollars. And he's sitting there sleeping on the factory floor. There's a kind of obsession that, I don't think my life is ever going to warrant, but I'm prepared to do it because, I want to see the results. And the results that'll come from a measured window of success, like obsession for a while, those results are going to change the whole course of your life. And I think that's the reason most people don't do it.
All right, today I'm so pumped to introduce to you a man who has turned thinking big completely upside down. Brady Edwards doesn't just push the boundaries, he obliterates them as CEO of Biggest Agency. After cutting his teeth alongside the legendary Mr. Beast, yes, the Mr. Beast himself, Brady developed an uncanny ability to transform the psychology of human attention into pure marketing gold. While everyone else fights for likes and clicks, Brady is capturing the only currency that truly matters in today's online economy, time. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation with someone who doesn't just help businesses and podcasters create world-class media, but literally rewrites the rules of what's possible when you refuse to settle for big and commit to becoming the biggest. Please help me welcome Brady Edwards. Brady, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I need that intro to follow me every time I enter a room, just on the speakers. That pours in, and it's like, there you go.
Well, we'll talk about that after we record this bad boy. I want to get things started right off the bat. You were a child actor. How did performing at such a young age, what did that teach you? What did you learn about trying to command attention from an audience?
To think about the other person's perspective, honestly. It started in theater, and as an 8-year-old kid on a stage, you've got these lights that blind you and you have these scripts you got to memorize. And then you have to kind of realize stage left, stage right. That's also the orientation of the audience. So as a young kid, you typically don't think about other people. Like when you're an infant, there is no perspective outside of you. You can't even see. And then as you're getting a little bit older, there's you and your family, right? So there's kind of this spiral dynamics, evolutionary measurement. They call it value levels, right? William talks about that. And so most people don't, in my experience, get comfortable in the perspective of somebody else. And I think that that's by and large, the biggest issue most people have, to be honest, is you don't think about the experience of the other person. So when you're thinking about attention or trying to make a really interesting video, the superpower in doing that is observing the perspective of the other person. People put a video up and they're like, this is going to rock, but they don't think about a stranger. And they go, well, they don't share your values, or they don't know where you were from or what your angle is here. It's not obvious to them that what you just posted, as an example, is going to be very entertaining at all. But it's entertaining for you because it's me in the video. And so thinking about it in that way and just the other person's perspective, whether it be in an argument or a business negotiation or a video, it's that gives you so much more mileage. Andrew Bustamante, he's a former CIA spy, and he's really taken on the YouTube realm, and now he's called, I think, Everyday Spy. And so he goes on a lot of podcasts, and he talks about that. They go, what's the one thing that if you could what's a CIA trick that you learn at the farm, and what would be the thing? And he's like, you have to understand somebody else's perspective, whether it's in, foreign policy negotiations or conflict or whatever else. That other person has a set of outcomes that they're wanting. And if you help them meet that, you're going to get along faster. And if you stand in opposition to that, if you're friction, you're causing a whole bunch of second order problems. So yeah, I would say from being a child actor and everything else, to answer your question, it's just you have to understand somebody else's point of view.
At what point does that come into play? I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of people listening here. They've got lives, they've got businesses, they've got jobs. Maybe they're trying to grow, expand, have some breakthrough in some way. I think we get caught in the minutia. Like you said, it's just about like me going up on stage, spitting out my presentation, me giving the sales call, me posting online. Does creating that perspective, is that an overall viewpoint, or is that a step along the way of the process of creation, in your opinion?
I think it just becomes a muscle you either work out or you don't. You know, I'm not a doctor or anything, but as I understand it, autism specifically, one of the criteria with it is that they'll do these studies where they will show a child who is being diagnosed with without autism. They'll show them a person and they're walking in front of a bus. They're going across a crosswalk and they pass in front of a bus, so you can no longer see them, but they're situated in a place where they can still see the other person. And the interviewer will ask, like, yeah, maybe botching this, but they'll basically try and describe to the autistic person, like, hey, like, you're situated at a vantage point to where you can see this. And then that child will assume that everybody in the room is able to see the same things that they're seeing. They don't have the ability to get outside of their head and observe that somebody else may not have the vantage point or the perspective that they themselves are holding. And so I think it's just a muscle. I think it comes with time, and I think it can grow incrementally.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put that. And that was actually my next question I was thinking about. Is that a skill that we can learn and tap into, or is it kind of like you have it or you don't have it?
No, I definitely think it's something you can learn. And it comes with empathy. I think empathy is something that a lot of people have some sort of innate predisposition for, but if they're not going to work on it, then you're going to have less empathy overall. But empathy leads to being able to understand somebody else's perspective, which leads you to then know how to monetize attention. I mean, it's a step function in that way.
Yeah. Is connection the ultimate goal? How would you articulate that? Like, based upon like what it is you do specifically in your agency, is it the connection, or what exactly are you trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you start a good YouTube channel and you're just like, this person speaks my language, you're going to subscribe. And then if they post another video and that video happens to be about something you are still interested in, then you're developing this relationship step by step. It's a parasocial, one-sided best friendship. Some of my favorite creators, when I was learning filmmaking in 2017, I went to YouTube University. I was like, yeah, like everybody's posting this stuff for free. So, you know, why? I'll just learn there. My degree was in advertising, but I was suddenly, now that I was done with it, I'm like, oh, well, now I want to study, cameras. Like, I don't want to go back to school. And so this one creator, Peter McKinnon, I just loved him because when he spoke, I felt like I understood him. And a lot of people, let's say you're trying to understand, how do I hang this drywall or hang this floating shelf? There's going to be 20 step-by-step videos, but most people will go through 3 or 4 until they land on someone that they actually like. But it's like, they all know how to do it. So what's the problem? It's the way that person's communicating. They're not fluent in your language. They're not teaching you the way that your mind is wired in order to receive and say, oh, now I know how to mount the floating shelf. It's like you get a math teacher, and that math teacher is just cruising through concepts because it's very clear to them and maybe very basic. But if they're not good at conveying the message of how you solve for X, it just doesn't resonate with you. So I'm very right-brained, and I had almost no math professors, as an example, that could speak my language fluently. And, I had a really hard time just connecting the dots when it came to anything numerical or mathematic. And I just never had a professor or a teacher that was able to really speak my language fluently. And that was really jarring to me because I learned stuff really fast. So I'm like, why am I struggling with this? Well, it's the fluency of my language. And so if concepts are really abstract, or, I'm less versed in it, it just compels people, you hope, to say, oh, well, I've got to find a way of delivering it so that you understand. Another version of this is that I was an LDS missionary for the church. And so I was an interpreter for deaf people. And so my assignment was to work with deaf people for 2 years and learning how to express yourself in another language, in a language that has no sound, no tone, right? Like, I'm doing this with my voice and you can tell where I'm at. But if you can't hear that, you have to then subsidize that with facial expressions. Yeah. And that creates the tone. And then I'm asking a question. And those sorts of things allow that communication barrier, even with someone that doesn't know English, can't hear sound, has never had a spoken English conversation, you can get the message across. And I think most people just assume that because we learned English, we're making these sounds with our mouths, that the person on the receiving end of that is going to just get those sounds, totally understand it. But it's like, they really don't. Someone will say a whole bunch of stuff to you, and it might go right over your head in one ear and out the other as an expression. And it's like, what is that? Well, it's speaking fluently in a way that someone can receive it.
Wow. Is it realistic to think that we can connect with all people, or are there just people that we're going to align with and they're going to kind of find us? How would you articulate that?
I don't think you can reach everybody. And if you are trying to speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody, right?
Yeah.
I think that there are a handful of outlier cases where their message has been able to be so clear that a lot of people do. But, not to get political, but let's take Trump as an example. Part of what he does that's really remarkable is he speaks to the everyday person well. So if you take a Marco Rubio or a Ted Cruz or even a Bernie Sanders, they're just so educated and so intellectually just high caliber that they have a hard time watering it down. Because if you can speak to the gas station attendant, the Uber driver, if you can speak to people that are not on the debate floor and doing all of these things and maybe not reading books after books, but you can still get the same idea across to that person, you can get it across to everybody.
Yeah.
And even then, like with Trump's ability to do that, whether you like him or not, half the country still doesn't like him. So it's like, I really don't think you can get to everybody.
I think that's a fair assessment. And perhaps we're not supposed to reach everybody, with our, with our destiny, what we're created to do in our businesses and our lives. There are probably people very specifically, a niche, so to speak, that we are supposed to resonate with. So I would probably tend to agree with you on a lot of things. You're never going to please everybody. If you think you're going to please everybody, I used to be a TV weatherman, and trust me, you're never going to do that either. Somebody ticked off at you for
People
something.
are going to critique you over how you delivered the weather. You're trust me, you can't win them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even when I was right, somebody misheard me and now they're accusing me of being wrong. So you threw your hands up in the air. Let me switch gears for just a little bit. Your company is called Biggest Agency. I love your mantra about not just thinking big, thinking biggest. When was the first time that you realized that you had the ability to think bigger than the average Joe?
When Jimmy needed me to, because the set was basically on fire. We would do these crazy videos at Mr. Beast. And so for context, I directed the video production of it, and I would work with the creative team, and they'd say, hey, we're going to bury Jimmy alive in the ground for 50 hours. And he's under 30 tons of dirt. And we need to figure out how to capture that. He's in a bulletproof coffin that's designed to bear all of this load. How do you get cameras in there? How do you maintain them? How do you build out redundancies? How do you capture the magic of that story? Make sure that the angles aren't too ugly, keep Jimmy well lit. And then when the guys are on the dirt up above the burial plot, how do you make a story out of that? And so the first time, maybe it was probably Tanner Fox, but it was really refined while I was at Mr. Beast. And people are really happy to just get a thing done. And they're like, this is good enough. One thing we did is we did a live stream at Mr. Beast. It was maybe 24 hours, maybe it was an 8-hour one. And the shtick was, if somebody bought a t-shirt during the live stream, guaranteed they would get a hand signature from Mr. Beast himself. And so it was this really exciting thing. Everyone's hopping in, we're doing funny stuff. Unbeknownst to us, a lot of people were watching, and they made 78,000 orders. And so the logistics of hand signing 78,000 shirts was something that we didn't account for. And so after the live stream was done, we're like, well, now we have to make a video out of this. But it took, unfortunately, almost 2 months to hand sign 78,000 shirts, right? Because it's like, okay, well, that's not 100,000. Like, how much is that? Well, if you break it down to, okay, how long does it take to sign 100 shirts? And we would, with a stopwatch, we would time it. And okay, great, we can get that done in 4 minutes. Well, 4 minutes across 8 hours in a day that you want to work. We have all these other videos going on. And now our entire production schedule has had a monkey wrench thrown into it because we have 78,000 shirts we have to sign. So what we first started doing is, how are we going to film this? Well, let's get all of the blank t-shirts arranged in an interesting way. So we got those like Home Depot, plastic shelving, like rugged garage shelves, you got the cylinders and you got the trays and you just kind of bang them together. So we got like 10 of those and we arranged them in a really interesting way. And we're like, hey, great, here's the desk. Jimmy's going to sit here and sign these shirts. And then all the shirts are behind him. And we were really feeling good about it. We spent about 6 hours and Jimmy comes in and he goes, what is this? And we're like, this is your set, Jimmy. And he goes, it's not big. Like, it needs to be bigger. And so I went, okay, well, I've got to be thinking bigger here about this. And so we got 30, maybe 50 more of these rugged black Home Depot shelves, and we assembled them. So instead of kind of this arrangement, this half moon arrangement behind him, now there's stairs, and they'll go up like 10 levels, and they're just all filled with shirts. And it's a row of stairs here and a row of stairs here and here. And we're like, look how crazy. It's like like 8 different ascending stair steps, just full of blank t-shirts. We're like, look at this. This is astounding. Jimmy's going to love this. So a whole day of doing this goes by, and we're sending people with U-Haul trucks, clearing out all the Home Depots, all the Lowe's, trying to get these shelving units so we can make a bigger set. And we're really excited about it. And Jimmy finally comes back into the studio, and he looks at it and he goes, guys, I said you need to do this bigger. And I'm looking at it going, what are you talking about? This is crazy looking. You know how cool this is going to be on camera? No, you're still not thinking bigger. Okay, great. And he goes, by the way, we're starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. At this point, it was already like midnight. And we're like, we somehow have to 10X this set, work overnight, and then film all day. I was like, okay, great. So we send more people out, and we clear out every Home Depot in North Carolina, in South Carolina, and in all the surrounding states. I think we sent someone to Georgia, and we got even more shelving, to the point where we created probably a 40-foot across by 40-foot deep by 20 feet tall super cube of all of these rugged industrial Home Depot shelves. And we filled it with 70,000 blank t-shirts. And we did not get it done by 8 a.m. that next morning, but we finally got to that biggest achievement threshold, which was we were thinking in the way that Jimmy wanted to, which is spectacle, astounding scale, something you've never seen before. And at each incremental level where we had built and reconfigured that set, we thought that we had done it. But I don't think we would have arrived at the super cube if we hadn't done the incremental steps of the half moon, of the stair arrangements. We had to, on the foundation of our latest failure, move the ball more. And you can't jump from 1 to a 10. Sometimes you have to go step by step by step. But you'll get to a 10 by hitting 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
How did he get that? How do you get that mindset? How do you get that mentality of like, nope, no? Because most people kind of live in practical land. That's why I had like a midlife crisis at 43. Where did he get that, in your opinion? And how can people like adapt that mindset that you have now adapted?
Well, he started in 2012 on YouTube. And if you run the clock back, YouTube at that time was not what it is now, for one. You know, it has 10 times the viewer base, but also there were a bunch of successful YouTube channels that had already kind of dominated the space and had partnership deals and ad revenue. And so people looked at YouTube and said, okay, well, I think we've peaked. In 2012, everyone's like, it's been done. So don't bother starting your YouTube channel there. It's too late. Which is crazy, because that's the year that, you know, Mr. Beast started. But what he started doing was getting to know his audience on a really intimate level, because when he finally eclipsed 100 subscribers, he knew all of them by name. He had a notepad out, and he was constantly writing them down by name and trying to get to know them, because there was no instruction manual for how to become Mr. Beast. It was just this intuitive thing where he went, I need to get to know these people more intimately, because they're giving me their time. They're watching my videos, and I don't know what they want, and I have no idea how to produce a good video. So I would say it was the time spent on getting to know the individual viewer and seeing what they value from you. The second thing is laser-like focus. If you talk to Jimmy about anything but YouTube, he's not going to talk to you. He puts people in bins where it's like you're either, you know, a partner or an employee, or you're a fan. And so he has different protocols for how he deals with each one of those things. If you're a fan, he takes a picture, you get, 20 seconds, and then he's got to move on. But if you're an employee and you're talking about something that is not the video right in front of you, or you're not talking about YouTube itself or how to optimize it, you're not using his time right. That guy has the most obsessive laser-like focus. In fact, during COVID, I had to live in his house because we were all quarantined, and he wanted to kind of protect the executive team. He's like, we don't know what this virus is. Let's just keep you under house arrest a little bit. And during that time, I learned that any conversation about anything but YouTube was like not okay, because his focus was and the other thing is he had paintings of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk on every wall in his house. So he was constantly reminded of greatness, of this laser-like focus. You use the bathroom in the downstairs, and you're just there, your pants are down, and there's a Steve Jobs just staring at you. It was the weirdest thing. But I would say that that's really what it comes down to, is like, be obsessive if you're going to choose to do a YouTube channel. I have clients that have done it because they know it's like the right thing to do, but they're not necessarily sure why it is beyond that. And I have all kinds of curriculum and things that I talk about and help them paint a picture, but I can lead a horse to water. I can't make it drink. People have to do their own legwork with their show because they're the face of it. You have to get to know the audience at a really intimate level, do the research yourself, and try and understand, hey, I'm not just like this. Building a YouTube channel is not like popping open an Instagram account. That feels very ephemeral. Whereas if you're really pouring time into a YouTube channel or a show, there is an intimacy that you as the founder, as the face of it, have to spend and develop in order to really understand that audience. And if people feel like it's a half effort, like they're going to know, like you have to really care.
You use the word obsess. I think that is that word can take on such a negative connotation. I think that there was a period where everybody was striving for like work-life balance. And it's like, if you truly want the life that you desire, there just will be, I don't know how else to put it. There's going to be at least a period or a mentality of such strong desire. It will look like obsession on the outside, but at the same time too, I can't poo-poo it because that's how you get it. You know what I mean? And that's why so many people don't have it. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah. And obsession has to at least be the only thing for a while. People think, well, I have to be obsessed with this for the rest of my life. No, but you do need to do it for like an extended period of time.
Yeah.
I did door-to-door sales for 4 or 5 years. And that's probably the hardest job to be obsessed with, other than like cleaning toilets, is because you're a professional solicitor. You're the dirty like peddler, and people don't want you in their neighborhood knocking on their door, interrupting their family and trying to sell them something. But every summer I would go out for 4 months. I'd put on a polo and Nike, and I would go to Missouri, and I would go to Colorado Springs and Portland, and I would bother complete strangers because I needed to pay for school and buy a car. And if I did it right, I could clear 50 grand in 4 months. And like 21 years old, that's pretty awesome. And so I chose to become obsessive with door-to-door sales. I am not obsessed with it today, but I was obsessed with mastering the craft. And I needed to in order to extract that success out of the activity that I was in. Another example is like I really wanted to learn a language. In the Mormon culture, going on this mission where you wear a white shirt and a tie, it's kind of this cultural thing that they bake into you if you grow up into it. Like you're always told you're going to serve this mission. You're going to go on and where are you going to go? You could go to Siberia. Your cousin went to Peru. Your other cousin went to Russia, and you'll learn this language. And so there's this really big cultural thing inside of the LDS church that emphasizes going on a mission and learning a language because it's really cool, right? Because how many people speak 2 languages? Well, I got my mission assignment and I was called to Arizona, which is not Peru, and it is not Guatemala. And I'm like, I live in Texas, and I'm getting called to Mesa, and I didn't get assigned a language. And that was like a big, like everybody, there's this weird emphasis on like, oh, how cool is that? You'll learn a language. Oh, you got assigned just English speaking. You know, maybe they think you're not capable of it. And so I was really kind of put out by it, but I did it. I went. And then I got pulled into American Sign Language in a last minute kind of emergency swap out with some other missionaries. So now I had this opportunity that I'd always wanted, which was to learn another language in this immersive environment. And my missionary companion, because there's always 2 of them, he was literally deaf. And so I became obsessive with American Sign Language. I told myself, I'm going to be the best hearing signer that I know. And so I didn't just tell myself that, though. I did the work. I read college textbooks in the morning for my studies. I would watch DVDs of people signing the scriptures. And then I would read the entire Bible or read the entire Book of Mormon. And then I would watch it again at 2x speed. And then I'm constantly writing notes about vocabulary that I learned. And why am I telling you all this? Because I want to illustrate somebody, like a situation where obsession pays off. Within 2 months, I was being mistaken for a deaf person. Within 3 months, I was told I was interpreting at a professional level that people had been doing for 10, 20 years. And it was because of my obsession. And people maybe underestimate how quickly obsession can pay off. They're like, oh, you have to be obsessed for years on years before you get a result. It's like, well, that just depends on the level of your obsession. Like, how much are you locked into it?
Yeah, dude, that's so good. I hope people are listening to this with a keen ear, because that's the key right there, right? Like, people want transformation. They want this breakthrough life. They want something totally big and brand new. And then they just kind of dip their foot, they'll dip their toe in it. It's like, it just doesn't work that way.
Elon Musk was sleeping on the factory floor during the launch of the Model 3, because they'd had a lot of preliminary success with the Model S and with the Model X. But, the last time that an auto manufacturer went to mass production scale at like a staggering, like truly staggering volume, the last time that it had been accomplished was actually World War II. It was Volkswagen, and the Third Reich was backing them because the war machine was getting drummed up, and the Third Reich needed more vehicles. And so they put a ton of infrastructure into Volkswagen. And then 80 years go by and not a single car manufacturer, a new kid on the block, has once been able to achieve mass scale production. Not one. And then Elon did it, but it took him sleeping on the factory floor. It took him when the Model 3 was in those final stages of, we've got all these pre-orders. He did nothing else but check on the panels and check on the manufacturing line and how are the, linen machines sewing on the covers to the seats. And it's like, this dude is worth billions of dollars and he's sitting there sleeping on the factory floor. There's a kind of obsession that, I don't think my life is ever going to warrant something like that. Like, I really hope not, but I'm prepared to do it because, I want to see the results, and the results that'll come from a measured window of success, like obsession for a while. Those results are going to change the whole course of your life. And I think that's the reason most people don't do it.
Absolutely. I want to switch gears just for a second. So your company, biggest agency, you help people really go above and beyond just what they think is big. Like, in your opinion, how come people have such a hard time thinking beyond just getting it done? As you say, you threw an idea up there, we got it done, we did the video, we checked the box. But to go back, kind of what Mr. B said, it's it's not big enough. I would have to assume those are the conversations you're having with your clients. It's no, let's go bigger. Let's go bigger. Why is this so hard for us to figure out?
Our clientele specifically is usually top earners, so 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs, and they have become incredible at creating systems or gathering teams that help them create systems that then allow their business to grow. And so they're very keen on eliminating friction, and friction introduces a whole bunch of problems if you're trying to get customers in or if you're trying to get someone to your show. And so I think when it comes to something that you can hold and it's your business and you're building it, you can get in there and optimize. People have no problem breaking things and improving the outcome of their business by removing friction. But this is kind of something different altogether. It's you. It's this portrayal of you. And you try and not make it performative, but it has to be interesting. And you think it needs to go this direction and you got to talk about this, but maybe nobody's interested in that. And so I think it's this very intimate, very close to the chest assessment that you have to constantly be making about yourself. Because building a business versus showing up as kind of a talking head or a figure, a spokesperson, right? A media personality, being able to dissect what it is about you that people are or are not going to like goes back to getting into the view of another person. You're never going to see yourself in 3D. You're only ever going to see yourself in a mirror or recorded footage of you. I'm going to be able to see your face. I can see the shape of your head, but you're never going to get that for you. And so there's just this fundamental thing that everybody else around you, even to your voice, you will never normally hear your own voice with your own ears because your voice box is situated to it interfaces with your ears. So as you speak, your ears are picking up a completely different version of your voice versus the person that you're speaking to. They literally hear your voice differently. And so there are all these weird, that's a physiological example of it, but there's all of these perceptions. And to say, I finally am doing this thing, I'm doing my podcast, I don't want to pivot again. I just got comfortable with this. But in this landscape, you have to constantly be changing how you're doing it. You have to change how you're delivering, what you're talking about, who you're speaking to. Are you speaking too broadly? Did you really do the research before this episode so that you can come with receipts and say, oh, well, this study according to da-da-da-da, or are you just kind of winging it? It's people can build a business, but then building your personality when it gets captured on camera, it's kind of a different thing. And I think that's why people like working with us, is we help them navigate it. Yeah, they got to look at themselves naked in the mirror. They got to talk to their family around them, ask their spouse and their closest friends, hey, I'm not trying to get my ego padded here. I'm trying to understand what are things that you've observed that you really enjoy about a conversation, or if I get really excited about a topic and I'm trying to share it with you, are there ways that I've done that in which it was more effective versus less effective? Yeah. Understanding what it is that people like about you is meant for you to grab onto and then empower it versus some sort of pat you on the back type thing. And people tend to blend those two things, oh, I'm going to go ask everybody what they like about me. But it's you need to do that. In fact, I had one client that just came back and she had done all of that legwork. And she was like, are there things that I do, motifs? Do I always, are there things that I say a lot? And it's we just say them. We don't think much about it, but the people around us do. I have my same several words that I really like saying. And people notice that, because who says bifurcate 5 times a day? And they hear that, right? They're like, you say this word a lot. And our client, she went and asked her friends at lunch. She was like, are there things that I do? Because I'm trying to come up with like a motif for my show, like a way that I bookend it and start it with. And they go, well, you always ask people, hey, can I give you a hug? She goes, you ask everybody that. And she goes, really? Well, I mean, yeah, I like hugging people, but they're like, no, but you ask for permission the same way every time. And her whole table full of friends at lunch had noticed this. They're like, you say, can I give you a hug? So you're asking for permission to give somebody a warm embrace. And then she said, whenever we leave, you always say, I love you always. And neither of those things are really jaw-dropping statements, right? But then she brought it to us after we told her, do this work, understand what people around you are noticing. And then we're like, well, that's it then. You got to give the viewer a hug. And she goes, well, how do I do that? And I was like, get off your desk and go over and hug the camera, because that's funny. I haven't seen anybody do that. And that's your thing. And so it's like, when you do that legwork and get to know what is people around you perceive you to be or do all the time, you can then bake it into your video to make it more authentic. And it's people don't properly value that word, but like, I know the difference between someone that's doing a performative thing on video and then when they're instead acting as if I'm their best friend of 10 years and they have nothing to show me and they have no performative wall or barrier. I describe it as Christmas morning, because who can fake it on Christmas? It's warm. Everybody's excited. Everyone's in the living room gathered around the tree and there's presents, right? We're in pajamas and there's no performative, nothing. It's just comfort, surrounded by people that are comforting. And that version of you in that room on Christmas Day is the most relaxed version of you. And so if you can figure out who that person is and put that person on camera, you're going to get a much better outcome that people immediately relate to.
I've heard it said that authenticity is the highest order, the highest vibration of connection with people. I would tend to agree with that in a lot of ways. And I hear that's what you're saying. I'm curious what you think about this. If you're making video or marketing, you're an expert in YouTube and you're talking specifically about YouTube, but just in promoting yourself, promoting your business, is it production or authenticity or both? Which one trumps the other one? Because both are important, but how would you rate those? Are they two sides of the same coin or two totally different topics?
It's a good question. So production's important if you're going to plan on having your video watched on the living room TV, as I point to it. In the last year and a half, YouTube noticed this trend that was happening. Couldn't explain why, but more than 60% of people that watch YouTube every day were starting to watch it on the TV in the living room. And that had never happened before. It was always on mobile. But then this huge shift happened. Everyone's like, why are they doing that? So suddenly the demand for 4K footage, for something that's produced actually pretty well, started to make sense, because you're like, yeah, well, this is going to be on an 85-inch screen. Like if it's in a crappy, resolution, it's going to really stand out across a massive television. But the other side of that conversation is, if it's overproduced, people feel like it's an ad. You're like, oh, this person has all this budget and they're trying to dazzle me with their production level. But like, I don't care really what it's filmed on. I just want it to be a good story, something entertaining or something substantive. When I was at Beast, Jimmy would make us he'd make us go on eBay and buy iPhone 6s. And he wanted to film short form really before TikTok like exploded. He was like, we got to do shorts and go get me an iPhone 6. And we're like, Jimmy, we have like the 12. Like, what are you talking about? And he goes, it looks too nice. And I thought that was ridiculous. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it should look nice. But he's like, no, excuse my language, we call it the shitty factor. It has to look a little watered down. It has to look like it's guys hand-holding cameras, running around, and it's not overly thought out, staged, or produced, because then there's something relatable about it. It's almost like, hey, if I can do it, you can. Yeah. And now the channel's very different. They shoot on incredible cameras. They've just finally fully leaned into this huge stage, huge production thing. But at the time, the priority really was making it look authentic and kind of low quality, because it felt more relatable. So that's the consideration with the production side of it. You do want to anticipate that someone's going to watch it on the living room TV in their house. So you shouldn't be shooting it on garbage. But at the same time, the eye is pretty forgiving. We see low quality videos all the time. The one thing that's not forgiving is your ear. And so having bad audio is almost inexcusable and creates a real friction point for long watch time. You're doing the show on a Shure SM7B, and you've got that connected probably to a Rodecaster or to a Scarlett. So you're providing really good audio quality, which makes a show much more easy to listen to because there's all sorts of gain and range and there's really good resonance in your voice.
Mhm.
And so that's going to be easy to listen to. I'm wearing AirPods, so it's probably not the most ideal audio outcome, but you can skimp on resolution and a camera, but never skimp on audio.
Thinking bigger, like trying to 10x our mindset. That was so hard for me, and I still struggle with that. What is something that people can do to just really get outside of themselves, the things that you do with your clients, to really go to that next level in their mind, to see something that they may not be able to see themselves?
Well, talking to the people around you is one of my biggest points, and I've covered that, I think, pretty thoroughly. The other thing is like changing your content intake. I think we tend to forget how fast this landscape moves.
Mm-hmm.
And in this course of human history, this sort of thing has never been possible before. Our grandparents, Gary Vee has this bit about our grandparents would bang us over the head with a frying pan if they could see all of the opportunity on the table in this modern era and the sheer lack of moments that we're grasping for it. It's like they had to toil in the fields all day or work a factory job, and then they had to come back and do all this brutal, arduous labor just to keep their crops going or to maintain this, and there's now, I think it was at the start of the century, in the 1900s, I want to say it was maybe 30-40% of people were farmers, might have been more.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't even think it's 2% of the population because everybody else has found all of these knowledge work skills, or the industry itself has fundamentally shifted to where now they're just doing something different. But you can go on your computer, you can start to study what one of these up and coming channels is doing, and you can learn very quickly where the appetite is at, because most people are not looking for new channels it's a young person, or it's they're a Gen Z kid and they're running around doing some streaming thing. It doesn't apply to me. But how are they talking? And what are the comments like? The zeitgeist, the Overton window of where people are at online, it's moving so fast. And so if you can get really as close to the tip of it as you can, you're going to have a much better time getting people's attention today. And most people are not willing to change their content diet. They're like, I'm going to get in this game, I'm going to make videos. But it's have you changed your diet at all? If you go to the gym and you never change your diet, people would think you're crazy for trying to expect results. But your content diet has to change as well. So it's you have to understand, okay, I'm a lawyer, I'm 45. What are other 45-year-old lawyers doing? And then who's their typical audience? Okay, well, what else are they watching? Oh, wow, I didn't know that Riz and Skibidi Toilet and Sigma and all these stupid things. I didn't see how that was being applied in a new video that went out. And so it's if you, not that you need to study Gen Z brain rot lingo, but you do need to study where people's attention typically lands, because they've got all of these inside jokes that they share. There's this video that went viral 3 days ago, and you wouldn't have known about it if you were not on Twitter, now called X. And it's this gigantic, jacked dude, and he wakes up at 3:50 in the morning with mouth tape on, and he takes the mouth tape off and he gets a bowl of water, and then he opens up some Saratoga Springs sparkling water and he pours the water into it. Then he sticks his face into the water, and now it's 3:50 a.m. And then he goes out and he gets a banana, and now he's rubbing the banana on his face, and it's 4:12 a.m. And he opens up his journal. This went viral because it was so absurd. And people were like, what kind of morning routine is this? Why are you rubbing a banana on your face? Why are you that jacked? The whole thing was really absurd. So everybody started parodying it. And I thought that everybody had seen this, but I was telling my girlfriend about it as oh yeah, morning routine. She hadn't seen it, but it had been clipped and remixed hundreds of millions of times. So you could be right next to somebody physically, and they're in a totally different content sphere, consuming media and memes and inside jokes that you are completely oblivious to. And so the goal is to, if you're going to get into the online video game, you have to kind of start understanding, where are trends popping off? Where am I oblivious? What am I not aware of? Because everybody else has these inside jokes. And if you can start to understand them, you're starting to understand culture. Internet culture is its own thing. It has become so prevalent, or it's so hard to encapsulate and just share it beyond an anecdote, but it is its own thing. And the more you understand that, the more people will feel like you're coming to them and you're fluent in their language.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, if you're not truly trying to understand the way that people are connecting with content on their phones and other devices, obviously, you're really not tapping into really, I don't want to say exploiting, but really being able to give the world what you're here for. And I think having an obligation to bring that to the world is something that I'm now taking more seriously. I think we should. I heard a podcast with Dean Graciosi. And he's like, if you have a message to share with the world, it's your obligation to share it. Well, then to your point, you need to understand the culture of how this online sharing game then works. But what people need to understand is that the more that you share and give the world, we all win. Like, we win when Brady Edwards shows up. You know what I'm saying? We win when, Jane Doe shows up in the world, in the online space, and is giving people value, even though it may be entertainment and laughs and reels. Like, we're winning. We all win because of that. And to me, it's an exciting game to play. Why would we not want to play that game?
100%.
It's crazy. Dude, I love this conversation, man. You're a brilliant man, well-spoken, very smart. And so I appreciate you dropping some nuggets with us. Couple of just quick questions here before I let you go. I'm assuming you're going to say YouTube, but the place to be playing online right now, the platform that is here to stay for a long time and people need to be leveraging.
YouTube, obviously, but people are really sleeping on X. It is, once it figures out what you're interested in, you'll get plugged into this vector of conversation that has been so informative and so educational for me and so amusing. Like, when it was Twitter, there were all of these guardrails and it was very insulated. But after the Elon acquisition, all of the guardrails are gone. And so, yeah, you'll run into some pretty crazy things and you don't have to agree with them. But also, our country was founded on the basis of free speech. It's literally the reason that we left, is that people weren't allowed to practice religion in the way that they wanted to. And they were being taxed to death, which is ironic because it was a 3% tax on tea, and that's what they rioted over. Imagine today if we took our taxes that seriously. But, the whole foundation of the United States is the ability to say whatever it is you want, to speak your mind, to question your government, to pursue an idea that may be heretical, that may be outside of the Overton window, the allowed conversational talking points. But if you are not allowed to do that, the outcome is a slippery slope, and the more language gets controlled and more and more and more. And unless you're in lockstep with X narrative, you're in trouble. And so Twitter has fundamentally embraced that. And you're going to learn so much about culture and people by letting it understand what you're interested in. And then it just builds this algorithm around you. It takes a little bit of time. Then obviously YouTube. YouTube is Google. It is the other side of the same coin, is Google and YouTube. And that is a multi-trillion-dollar company. It has been around for 20 plus years, 25 years, part of the Magnificent Seven. And the average person on the internet, if they started in the year 2000, has something like 10 million pages of metadata that has been gathered on their browsing behavior, on what they like, on what raises and elevates their heart rate. And then they got more data on you, your biometric data. They can tell what makes your pupils dilate because that front-facing camera on your phone is recording every single thing you're doing. And so when Facebook leverages it, it's because, Jared got an ad and the ad was 40% yellow and his pupils dilated. And so we know he responds to yellow. This is all data that they have. And for better or for worse, they are able to leverage the algorithm of YouTube to put really good videos in front of you. And they're not going anywhere. And in fact, in the last month, YouTube podcast listens eclipsed 1 billion views. So just the specific genre of podcasts on YouTube, over 1 billion plays in 1 month. And so the demand is just crazy right now. So yeah, I would say X and YouTube. Instagram is great, but Instagram is really ephemeral. It's really hard to grow on Instagram in some sense. Like, it's so temporary. You're not going to go and seek out someone's profile to watch a video you've already watched. You don't do that on Instagram. You watch it once and you're moving on. But with YouTube, you could very well go back and watch another video over and over again.
Second question is probably the same. You're probably going to give me the same answer, but biggest miss people are missing out on when trying to get their message, their marketing, their business out there. Biggest miss, probably not being on those platforms. What would you say?
Yeah, but also thinking that you don't have to play the game differently. If baseball, basketball, and football, their common theme is they all have a ball. And so people, they must use the same rules. Like, no, they don't. Not at all. Like, okay, these are all social media platforms. The rules are not the same. And so what works on Instagram does not necessarily spill over to YouTube. And YouTube is going to be harder to probably grow an organic audience because there's not really a social feature to it like on Instagram or Facebook. But if you can grow that audience, that's out of genuine interest. And that YouTube audience will have a higher probability of converting to leads at the top of a funnel, or just, being genuinely interested in the next video that you post. You'll really get that if you grow an organic audience on YouTube. If you grow it on Instagram, it's so ephemeral that, loyalty is not really as ingrained. Yeah. And so that's probably my answer for that.
It's a great answer. I love that. And also too, like, you know how YouTube works. When I'm on it, like, it's feeding me exactly what I want to see. I mean, it's like it's the ultimate time suck if I happen to click on my YouTube, because it knows, like, and it's so elastic. And, you know what I'm interested in when you go through like my feed. And to your point, it does an excruciatingly good job. And so it can do that job for you if you're willing to put the time and effort into it. I couldn't agree more.
100%.
Boldest thing, like, you're a 10X thinker. I mean, you're the biggest thinker. It's the name of your agency, right? This has such power to create things in your life. What's the biggest thing that has come out of the biggest way of thinking?
Belief in myself, as cute as that may sound. I think we have our starting points, and some people start in a beautiful home and land in a trust fund. And some people start in a very small community in rural Texas, like me. And the framework that you start your life at, people tend to think it dictates the whole outcome of your life, as if rags to riches stories aren't a thing, as if pulling yourself up by your bootstraps isn't a thing. Our country is so fascinating in that way, because other countries, it's the tall poppy syndrome. In the UK, they're really known for that. Like, someone's going to go out and start a business, everybody around them is going to make fun of them, because the culture is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Trying to like get ahead in life? Like, who do you think you are? But our culture celebrates it. Our culture celebrates the entrepreneur, or the person that decided, I don't care about where I came from or my roots. I'm going to aspire to, what is the biggest outcome I could have in my life? Is it me knocking doors for the rest of my life? So be it. I'll be the best at it. Is it me being an American Sign Language interpreter? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to be the best at that. And even if there is someone that's objectively better than you at it, you're still championing for that outcome. And when you do that and you decide, I'm going to be the best toilet scrubber on the entire team, you have now achieved the biggest possible outcome, or the upset of outcomes, by doing that relative to where you are in that moment. Lift where you stand and be the strongest lifter. And then if you do that, you're going to be shocked at the belief that you develop in yourself, the trust and integrity that starts to form and ideate, like consume your personality. But then you're also probably not going to be scrubbing toilets for very long.
Amen.
Because you're going to have the mindset of somebody that is looking for the next biggest opportunity, the next smartest card to play. And you're going to pivot, take some risks. And man, I tell you, like, growing up in this small community in Texas, the last thing I ever thought I would be destined for was helping create 10 billion views on YouTube, and having dozens of clients, owning a film studio, and having a beautiful home and a lovely life. Like, it never crossed my mind. I didn't think that would be my outcome, but my paradigm was excellence, pushing the idea as far as you can, and just being the best at whatever it is you're doing right now. And then everything works out.
Dude, that's a great way to end the show, because I think that if you believe you can do anything, if you have the belief, it will lead to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And whether that original idea ever comes to fruition or not, it's actually irrelevant, because that belief is what got you to actually your destiny, because you didn't know what your destiny was when you were back here on step one, but the belief in it got you there. And it actually is probably better than what the original thought even was. Dude, even
to the point of seeming delusional.
Correct.
Like, it's okay to seem like you're delusional. Don't tell people about your ideas. You know what? Like, because don't freaking tell them, okay?
Screw them.
Because, don't tell them what your plan is. Oh, I'm going to have a yacht. Dude, you work at Burger King. Shut your mouth about your yacht. Okay, then don't tell them, because one day you could have it. Yeah. But it's like, don't let anybody try and crap on your dream or pull it down. Demand that you'll have it one day. And then just figure out the path. You're here, the yacht's over here, and now just solve. That's all you got to do.
Dude, I love it, brother. Thank you so much for the time. Before I let you go, where can people find you? Best place to find more information on you?
Yeah, my Instagram, I just do most of my business through that. It's just Brady Deluxe, one word. And then my company's Instagram is Biggest Agency. I'm trying to build a website. I'm choosing to do that on my own. Turns out that's another thing that I don't know how to do. And so that's a fun process to learn. So maybe I'll get a web developer. But yeah, we're building the website right now too. Yeah, Biggest Agency.
Dude, I love it.
Man, no, it's fun.
Hey, man, appreciate you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
All right, good to see you, man.
Yeah,
take it easy.
Bye. If this conversation sparked something in you, don't let it fade. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to connect with me online as well. Follow me at Jared Sebesta on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or dive deeper at my website, jaredsebesta.com, where all my free trainings and resources are waiting for you. And remember, stop chasing the life you want and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect. We'll see you next time.